Hi there, thanks so much for joining our session today. We hope to help you ease the stress of a suddenly remote workforce by leveraging Jira Service Desk and Opsgenie. I'm Kate Clavitt, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Atlassian focusing on incident management. Before we get started and dive in, let's go through some tech tips. Depending on the network that you're using, you might have some issue with the slides. Just be sure to press F5 on your keyboard or refresh the page. Also make sure that your headphones are connected and your audio is turned up so that way you're able to hear us. We are going to be taking questions through the webinar Q&A widget. Be sure to ask questions as they come to you. There's also going to be time at the end for your questions as well. We're going to try to save the best questions for last, so be sure to stick around. We're covering both of these tools today at a high level, so you can quickly get set up and start empowering your teams right away. Now that that's out of the way, let's dig in. So what we're going to cover today are the obstacles of remote communication. We'll go through a quick overview of Opsgenie and Jira Service Desk and why we think that using them together is really going to help you solve these obstacles. Then we'll go through a brief overview followed by a live demo. So let's talk about the obstacles that teams may face when they're in different locations, either suddenly remote. So if you're planning on being remote, you can put a lot more thought into it. You can have processes in place versus if you just wake up one day and are told, okay, let's work from home for 6 months and we're figuring it out. Teams might encounter siloed information. If you're not physically seeing people in person, it's a lot harder to remember to loop them in. So if you don't have regular check-ins scheduled, or perhaps you're not used to being remote from these people, there can be information that you might need access to and vice versa that's not getting shared. And this kind of falls into that isolation and lack of coordination or collaboration piece where you're just not physically in the same space and you're not seeing each other, so you're kind of stuck in your own lane, trying to solve problems off on your own in a vacuum. Another common problem that teams run into is a complete tool overload or fatigue. So I know I personally, I'm on Zoom calls all day and I'm getting text messages and phone calls. I'm also using chat tools as part of my workday. So there's a lot of different venues that people can use to get to you professionally and personally. And so a lot of companies invest very heavily in tooling, but not necessarily taking the time to set things up to avoid this fatigue. And so this is a common obstacle that remote teams are running into, especially because they're needing to use all these tools in order to communicate and stay close to the rest of their team. Another piece is the low trust and transparency issue. So this is how it affects us from a team perspective and a productivity perspective, but then how does this impact the customer? And so here a customer can mean an external customer, or if you're an IT help desk, or an HR organization, your customer might be internal. They're going to feel the pinch of the challenges that your team is undergoing in trying to solve their problems. So if a team isn't synced up and they're handling customers day in and day out, the customer experience is not going to be consistent. They might get a different answer when they ask the same question to different team members, etc. So it comes through there. It can also extend the timeline for how long it takes for things to get fixed or how long new features are introduced, because if a team's not in sync, they're going to run into a lot more problems and a lot more challenges. It can also lead to an increase in downtime. Bottom line is, if your teams aren't happy and they're stressed and they're not working effectively, that is going to trickle down and impact your customer, whether that customer is internal or external. And take that internal team challenge of working remotely, add to it the negatives that the customers are feeling, and then on top of that, throw these alerts, right? And when I say alerts, I'm referring to emails, monitoring tool notifications, chat messages. We all encounter hundreds of these every day. And the more tools involved, the more sources for noise. And so then where do we find ourselves? We find ourselves drowning in alerts and then feeling a little bit like this famous comic by Casey Green. So everything's on fire and we're just trying to get through and keep up. But as mentioned before, when we're just keeping up and trying to stay afloat, This is where problems creep in, and we suffer from downtime, inconsistency, an uptick in incidents, and a loss of productivity. By leveraging Atlassian's Opsgenie and Jira Service Desk, you're able to address all of these challenges before they become a problem and empower your teams to be successful and keep customers, internal or external, happy, especially during this trying time. So Opsgenie integrates with your entire dev and IT stack, and it sits between your IT and dev stack and your operations teams, collecting disparate alerts and acting as a single source of truth. These alerts are dispatched based on source, content, and time to the people that are working according to the on-call schedule. Jira Service Desk is a collaborative ITSM solution that helps IT teams manage requests, incidents, changes, and problems, and is also flexible enough to help teams outside of IT, like HR, legal, and finance, do request management as well. There's also SLA management, CSAT reporting, and a portal for employees or customers to submit tickets. So how does pairing Opsgenie and Jira Service Desk empower remote teams? You're immediately reducing the noise from all of the disparate tools that you're using. You're aggregating them into one place, and then you have full command over them because you're routing them based on on-call schedules, source, content, and time. You have access to all customer requests with full visibility, and then you're able to prioritize and meet SLAs with ease. You can then record all of the information across Jira Service Desk and Opsgenie for reporting. So this helps you to build trust among your internal teams. It also helps you to keep track of what's happening so you can identify opportunities for improvement and celebrate successes. So now that we've got the background out of the way, let's move into the demo. We're going to go through what happens when a customer comes to the request portal, opens an issue, and then how that gets routed to Opsgenie and then routed to the team on call. Okay, so let's dive into the demo. I've already created a Jira Service Desk account, and now I've added my team members, and I just want to set up their SLAs. And so I'm setting up SLAs for the different issue types, and then I'm going to set up an SLA for reporting a bug, and I'm setting that to 24/7. You do have flexibility to change this, but as I said, we're just going through a very basic use case. The next thing we're going to do is set up an Opsgenie account from the Jira admin panel. So first we're going to go to the admin panel and then select Manage Subscriptions. And then I have the option to select other Atlassian products, and I'm going to choose Opsgenie. Follow the dialog boxes. I'm starting my free trial. I'm selecting where I want my information stored. And now we're into the Opsgenie account. So when I go to set up a team, I go to Team Settings, checking my users. You can see that all my users are still there. So all the users that were in my Jira Service Desk account have been ported over to my Opsgenie account. So from here, I'm going to be able to create my team, and I'm just going to call it the helpful team, and then add those same people directly to that team. So traditionally, you'd need to add users separately and invite them, but because they were already part of my account, because they were already part of my Jira Service Desk account, I don't have to do that. So that saves me a lot of time there. Once the team's created, we come to this overview page where you see the on-call schedules, escalation policies, and routing rules. And then, of course, at any time, if you need help, you can chat with that little blue chat bubble. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is set up the on-call schedule. So first, I'm going to add a rotation for weekday off hours. And I'm going to add Smear, myself, and Brennan to that rotation. And that's going to be a weekly rotation that I'm going to restrict to just the off-hour time intervals. And then I'm going to change it to weekday and time of day, so it's Monday through Friday, and that's all set. The next thing that I want to do is add a rotation for weekday. Add a rotation for the weekend. So I'm adding a rotation for the weekend, just for Saturday and Sunday, and I've got Samir on there, and I've got myself on there. So I'm going to work the weekends, and that's all set. And now you do have the flexibility to do any kind of schedule that you'd like. We have the option for follow the sun, You have custom options. You can really customize this, but as I said, just wanted to give you a high level of how this works. The next step is to set up your escalation policies. So we're going to set up a pretty typical escalation policy. So the goal of the escalation policy is that it's going to notify someone until the alert gets acknowledged. So this escalation policy, after 5 minutes of creation, the on-call users in the helpful team schedule are going to be notified. After 10 minutes, if the alert is still not acknowledged, which means we don't know that anyone's working on it, it's going to notify all members of the team. And then after 15 minutes, we're going to notify the administrator of the team so they can figure out why nobody's getting on top of this and fixing the problem. So that's a basic escalation policy. Now we're going to set up the routing rules. So these are key. Something I always suggest for alerts that are low priority, not necessarily high impact, I suggest creating a routing rule that doesn't route to anyone. So what that does is it creates an informational alert that stays within Opsgenie. So you have the information, but you're not waking anybody up in the middle of the night in order to take care of this. So here I'm going to call that my P4, P5 routing rule, and then route that to no one. The next thing I'm going to do is make sure that the helpful team escalation policy is selected as other. So we have if the priority is less than P3, then don't route it to anyone. Otherwise, or else rather, make sure that you route it to the helpful team escalation. If you don't select the escalation and you route just to the schedule, the alert's not going to escalate. And that kind of takes away the whole point. So once that's all set, we're going to want to set up our integration with Jira Service Desk. So we go to the Integrations tab and we select Jira Service Desk. Once you've opened the Jira Service Desk integration page in Opsgenie, all the instructions are at the top of the page. You're going to need to create a trigger for each different piece that you want Opsgenie to receive. I'm going to copy the API key and then head back to Jira Service Desk, go to Project Settings, and select Automation. This is where I can add rules in order to create the triggers. In each case, we'll be selecting a custom rule. So then you're going to select Issue Created, and then add Webhook, paste the Opsgenie API key, make sure you select Include Payload and Body, and ensure that it's enabled, and then click Save. And we're going to repeat this for each use case instead of making you sit and watch me do all of them. I just did one as an example, and then here you can see that they're all completed. And then we're going to go back into Opsgenie. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is set up how alerts are routed back and forth between Jira Service Desk and Opsgenie. So you've got different options for action mapping here. So if an alert's acknowledged in Opsgenie, then you're going to add a comment in Jira Service Desk so that way we're aware of that. And then for other Opsgenie alerts, this means for alerts that are generated from your other monitoring tools, your other ITSM tools, they're not coming from Jira Service Desk, they're coming from elsewhere. You might want to create an issue for those. You're going to probably be getting a lot of alerts, and you don't want to create a Jira Service Desk issue every time. That doesn't make sense, and then that just adds to the alert fatigue. Okay, so we've got priority equals critical. So the next steps include filling out the issue type name, the Jira Service Desk URL, your username, that's the information that you use to log in, and then you need to create a password API token, and this can be done at id.atlassian.com. And this is necessary for the integration to work properly. Then just fill out your project key and click Save. So now let's take a look at what it looks like from the customer perspective. So here's the Helpful Desk's portal where customers can file requests. So we've got a customer here who's going to file a request, and then we're going to see what happens in Opsgenie and what happens in Jira Service Desk as a result due to everything we've just set up. Okay, so the customer selected service and infrastructure. So this is what the customer sees. So then let's go to Opsgenie and see what happens there. So we're in Opsgenie and we see the alert in the dashboard. Now let's open another request and see how Opsgenie notifies of that alert. So I have my cell phone up here on the screen. On the left side, we'll show the portal for customers to submit their requests. So again, I'm going to do the payment portal is failing to load. And then we've got that coming through. Okay, so it's loading repeatedly. Now, because that previous alert that I sent through didn't get acknowledged, I'm getting phone calls and text messages from OpsGenie. Okay, so then let's finish filling out this issue. We're going to submit it and click Save. And then we'll refresh. And you see it's coming up on the dashboard, the alert dashboard, and I have it in my phone as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the text message. So now I'm going to acknowledge it from my mobile, and then let's go into Jira Service Desk and see what it looks like on that side. So you see there's a comment added to the issue that I acknowledge the alert, so we know that I'm working on it and I'm paying attention to it. So I know that was quick. That concludes the live demo. And so basically our idea is that this can really help you out because it's ensuring that those critical issues are getting taken care of right away because you're using OpsGenie to help dispatch those to your team. And OpsGenie can send alerts based on SMS, phone call, or mobile push, as well as email. So you have all those different options to notify responders so that way they can get working on the issue. You'll immediately be able to reduce the noise from different alerting sources. You'll have full control over all alerts and on-call schedules. You'll be able to easily manage all of your customer requests and make sure that they get routed to the right people at the right time. And then you can record everything because it's synchronized between the two tools due to the bidirectional integration. Thank you so much for taking time to be here with us today. You can get in touch at any point by going to the community. We're there for you. We are going to answer as many questions as possible during this session, but if we don't get to your question, don't worry, we'll find a way to follow up with you, and you're also welcome to post it in the community. Now let's take some questions.